Today on Locked On Red Wings, we're going to recap the end of the season press conference that Steve Yzerman held, and then maybe get to the final game of the year recap. We'll see what we got time for. But Steve Yzerman comes first.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I think we're too deep in it now for me to retake that, so we're just going to keep on rolling.
But Steve Yzerman comes first.
As he should.
As y'all know by now, when that intro video plays, y'all can't see us, but Brian can see me, and the whole time I was like, really? Like, Steve Yzerman comes first? Really, dog?
I'll restart it. Don't test me. I'll start.
I know you will. I know you will. Trust me. I'm used to that.
I'm tempted.
Don't. No, it's funny.
My hand's going over to end recording.
No, what are we doing? No.
We're having fun. Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Scotty also hosts over at Locked On Tigers. He had a much well-deserved day off from covering the Tigers.
Jeez.
They,
I'm doing a crossover
Astros
with Locked On Pirates for tomorrow's show, which is fun. Ethan Smith is actually his name.
Oh wow!
For those who are long tenured Locked On Red Wings listeners. But yeah, Ethan, super cool guy, and we have a 2-game series against Pittsburgh coming up, so we kind of just compare and contrast where the teams are both at so far this season. We have a lot of similar problems, and I think very different expectations going forward, and take Scooble's pitching, so we take a look at the series itself and all of that. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, so that's Locked On Tigers. Go make sure you listen to Scotty over there. He is a one-man wrecking crew, as they would say.
They do.
As they often say. I've heard maybe half dozen people call you that. So, I mean, I just assume that's your nickname, one-man wrecking crew.
Of course.
So stupid. Here over at Locked On Red Wings.
Steve Yzerman
comes first. He comes first. He held his end of the season press conference today, or yesterday by the time you were listening to this. And as you would imagine, a lot of the questions were revolving around the recent coaching changes, but you got also questions regarding prospects, off-season moves, things of that nature. And I guess the first and foremost, Scotty, I guess I want to ask you really what your main takeaway you think was from this press conference and how you feel about this team.
I mean, I think that Steve Yzerman is definitely still Steve Yzerman. Like a lot of the questions that were asked, right? Like a lot of the questions that were asked, he has this fascinating way of answering questions where he's like really candid, but not open. Like he walks this line so well of like being very straightforward, but also not actually telling you anything. Like it's remarkable. It's honestly an unbelievably impressive skill. And so I think like we did learn a little bit. I really honing in. I'm sure we'll get up to the questions about kind of like what he's looking for in a head coach. Like people kept wanting to ask that kind of stuff. Rightfully so, makes sense. But I think the biggest thing for this team going forward was just that Steve wants to win. That's the vibe I got. I don't think that this is any more of like we talked about it the last couple of weeks and especially yesterday, but like I don't think we're trying to lose days are here anymore. I got the impression that, I mean, when he talked about Edvinsson, when he talked about, was asked about moves for the offseason, I get the impression that he is trying to build the team and actively make it better and compete next year.
No, I absolutely agree. I mean, going back to your point on how he just says everything but nothing at the same time, it's because he's so he always takes a good couple moments to formulate how he wants to phrase things. So it's because he's so articulate in the way he says nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He's very careful and well-spoken about not giving you any answers that you can kind of run away with. And of course, our jobs as entertainers is to now take what little information he did give us and run away with it and make definitives. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. But, they asked a lot of questions about the Jeff Blashill stuff. And I tried my best to take some notes here, but, I was never known in school for my note-taking.
I certainly wasn't.
For sure. The thing that's most interesting to me is that they asked them about the assistant coaches they let go and the assistant coaches they didn't let go. And they kept on Alex Tanguay and they kept on Scarpacci, I believe is the how you pronounce that last name of the video coach. Alex Tanguay is the one that interests me the most. I mean, he is the one on the bench assistant coach that did not get let go from this team. And he's obviously the newest addition as he came in this offseason. And this leads me, nothing that he said led me to this conclusion, but the fact that he's still on the team, and he was a special teams coach. The power play and penalty kill were awful. But the fact that he's still on this, I don't say roster, coaching staff is the right word.
There you go.
I guess maybe this is a better question for when we get to that episode. But does that mean that maybe he's a candidate? Alex Tanguay having plenty of, former NHL player, has coaching experience in other organizations. Is he perhaps that a coaching candidate, not the coaching candidate, but a coaching candidate for the Red Wings going forward? In your opinion, not that we're experts by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I think he is. I'm not saying that means he's likely to get the job or the favorite. But I mean, hell, they're going to get 20 applications from dudes. You know what I mean? They're going to have a ton of people throw their hat in that ring. And I fully expect Tanguay to be in that. And it's just, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out because when we brought him in, I remember Nolan and I being really big fans. And at the beginning of the season, people were fans because we started off hot and the special teams looked like it had taken a step forward.
Yeah, I remember talking about it with you.
Right. And then it really took a step back in a big way. So it'll be interesting to see how that's handled. But I mean, as far as just like, is he going to throw his hat in the ring? Yeah. I mean, absolutely he is. We see organizations keep it in-house all the time. And while I don't think that's what will happen, I don't even think it's even relatively close to the most likely scenario. He'll definitely get considered without a doubt.
Well, and when he talked about like the main reasons why he made the decision to let Blashill go, he spoke about the fact that, and he was very careful in the wording that he used, because he stopped himself short of saying like the team plateaued. That's what he was like. He's like, I don't want to use the term plateaued, but then he went on to use the term regressed, as in he saw the team, and we saw it as well. He had seen the team as had taking a step forward.
I think regressing is worse than plateau.
I agree. Because plateauing means that it just stopped.
Right, you just leveled off, and you're just like, okay, this is the peak that we're going to be able to get out of a Blashill team. We're going to move on. Regressing is, I mean, that's
we know what we saw,
and then you actively got worse the rest of the year, and that's obviously, clearly worse than a team that just plateaued. I don't think either result in Blashill being behind the bench next year, though.
Yeah, but he also said something that really caught my ear, I guess. Caught my eye wouldn't be correct because he's talking. So I guess caught my attention. There we go. That's how you use words, Brian. Caught my ear. He said that he has reflected a lot on these decisions the last 2 weeks. And that caught my attention because I interpreted it as one of two ways. Either he reflected on his decision to fire Jeff Blashill the last 2 weeks a lot, which means that, as we had speculated, this is a decision that was made a long time ago. But he also, after that, followed up with talking about the extension. And so I thought maybe he was reflecting on Jeff Blashill's extension and this extra year as a whole a lot the last 2 weeks. So it's definitely interesting to see because we talked a lot and speculated a lot yesterday on why these things happen. Obviously, based on the timeline of events, we can make the conclusion that this is probably how these things happened. But it is a little, I guess, validating to know that things that Yzerman said are things that, everyone was seeing. Like Yzerman was seeing what we were seeing and what we were talking about, not us as, podcasters, but us as the fan base, as a whole, the regression, the quick decision making on it. On top of the fact that he even went as far as saying, I think it's unfair to judge Jeff Blashill based on his wins and losses because this team, he was put in a really tough situation, which I thought was a wonderful thing to say. Because again, we talked a lot yesterday about how Blashill gets a lot of fervent hate. I unfortunately is the word I'm going to use here on Twitter, on all social media because of how poor the team played under his tenure. But I really appreciate Yzerman, and he is going to, as general manager, should point out that, like, well, this team, didn't have the great personnel, as he said it, the best personnel in his tenure. So I really, it was really nice to see Yzerman reiterate a lot of our thoughts on that matter.
No, for sure. The validation between that, not only, like you said, not only with us but with the fan base, is really nice. So I think he handled all the questions fielded about Blashill really, really well.
Yeah. Do got to talk to you guys today about Athletic Greens. It's a product that, Scotty, I know you've been using quite often. I know Tarek Skubal uses it, and I listen to another podcast that uses it a lot in the Always Sunny podcast. Love that podcast. Love Always Sunny. And Glenn Howerton, the guy who plays Dennis, is using it all the time. So it is a quickly growing, daily supplement, pills, a powder you mix into your water. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery focus, all the things. And I don't have a banner for Athletic Greens. I was about to put it up before Scotty said anything, but I'm out of luck.
Said it, brother. You missed it.
Did you?
Yeah, right when you started the ad, you said, I have to tell you about, and I said, a banner.
Oh, I totally missed it.
You were in the
right. Well, Athletic Greens, in the meantime, while I type up this banner for, days future, I don't know what I'm saying. It's lifestyle friendly. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, or artificial anything, while still tasting good. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's cheaper than getting all the different supplements yourself. You're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 five-star reviews recommended by professional athletes, Tarek Skubal being one of those, trusted by leading health experts such as Tim Ferriss and Michael Gervais. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Whew.
That a boy.
I'm so awkward sometimes, man. It's just
You're not
part of my charm. Well, it's like they say, it's only awkward if you make it awkward.
Yeah.
Did I make it awkward?
No, honestly, I've always found that one of the biggest ways to combat awkwardness is to just admit that something's awkward, then it's a lot less awkward.
Really? That goes against the conventional wisdom of the awkwardness philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I don't know, in my experience. Maybe I'm just different like that, but
oh, you are built different. We know that. One-man army. One-man wrecking crew. Sorry, that's what it is. One-man wrecking crew.
Steve Yzerman comes first, though.
Steve Yzerman comes first, though. And that's who we're talking about on today's episode of Lockdown Red Wings. As he had his end of the season post-game presser. We talked a lot about his, Jeff Blashill comments, kind of just reiterated a lot what we as Locked On Red Wings hosts were feeling, but also a lot what people on Twitter and social media were feeling. I wouldn't say that because there are a lot of people who just are blindly like, oh my God, he's gone. Thank goodness. But, a lot of the beat writers, I would say, are reflecting upon after his departure. I did want to talk too. They asked him a lot about, off-season moves. They said, I asked him about the timeline to getting a new head coach, though. And he did say, between draft and free agency would be great because he said that, once the draft happens, then you're right into free agency. So you kind of want to have that established. But he said, obviously, that doesn't mean that's a guarantee. So I'm not going to go say definitively that we're going to have a new head coach by then. But it is like he did kind of hint at his little timeline. He says, like, I'd rather get a head coach like sooner rather than later. I don't want to wait until close to training camp, is basically my interpretation of the little blurbs he lets out, the little peeks behind the curtain he does give you.
No, I agree. I think that makes sense. Like I don't think you want to go, past the draft, past free agency, deep into the dog days of the offseason and you're starting to pick up again for next year without your entire coaching staff in place.
Yeah, and they asked him a lot about the prospects on this roster as well. The first one people asked him about was Jonatan Berggren. Obviously, we talked with Andrew Rinaldi last week about him and how the fantastic season he had with the Griffins and the major step forward that he took. And they asked him if they thought he would be NHL ready. And, in typical Steve Yzerman fashion, didn't really reveal a lot about how he was feeling. But he did say, last offseason, we talked to him, told him what we thought we wanted him to improve on. And then this season with the Griffins, he took that and ran. Like, he improved on it a ton. So, yeah, next offseason or next training camp, he will have an opportunity to make the roster, but can't guarantee that it'll happen. He said everyone advances at their own, different rate. He said they were pretty confident Seider would make the NHL roster, but didn't know the impact he would have. They didn't know Lucas Raymond, and he said this. They didn't know Lucas Raymond was going to be as good as he was, especially with his limited SHL time as he had before coming over to North America. So he's like, everyone advances at a different rate, but yeah, he's going to get a shot. But he went a little bit further, I would argue, when talking about Simon Edvinsson. They asked him, of course, about him, and he kind of gushed a little bit, talking about his size, his strength.
Did, man. He really did. He sounded like he was talking about a crush he had.
Yeah, and he talked about like comparables to Seider, and he's like, they're different players. They play slightly different styles, but he's like, you can't help but compare him to Moritz Seider when you're looking at what he accomplished this season and how much he's grown. And he said he stopped short again. He stopped short again of saying probable of making the NHL roster next year. But like just by the body language, and again, you have to speculate so much because he gives you so very little. But just on the amount that he spoke of, how highly he spoke of Edvinsson, it leads you to believe that, Edvinsson above all other prospects right now have a better chance of making the NHL roster than the other, what you would, I guess, say are the blue chip prospects in the Red Wings organization.
Yeah, for sure. It was very fun to hear him talk about it because you could tell that he was like oozing with excitement. Like you could just tell that he was like really pumped about Edvinsson.
As much excitement as he's willing to show in any given press conference.
Right, exactly.
That's why
he was very clearly like a big fan. And it is. I mean, honestly, after that, and this might be like me way jumping the gun and getting like way too ahead of myself, but just after those comments, like I'm pretty confident he's going to be in Detroit on opening night.
Me too.
And I will openly admit that a lot of that confidence I have in that prediction pretty much entirely came from the press conference on Monday. Like we talked about it a week ago. We were like, yeah, like, 50-50 shot, like maybe, it might be a Raymond thing where he has to like look really good to get in, or maybe if there's an injury or something, but like, maybe not. After just hearing him talk about it and like show Steve Yzerman levels of enthusiasm towards something, I'm like, all right, like he's pretty much penciled in. That dude's playing in Detroit on opening night this fall.
I feel the same way, especially when he goes on to talk about the changes that are going to be happening. And of course, never says anything really of any like real weight or merit. But, he did say, obviously, he said there will be changes to this roster. And, they talked a lot about the defense side of things, especially about the personnel that was on the team. Again, no names were given, no specifics. But he said, I have a list of free agents. And he's like, does that mean I'm going to get all those free agents? No, because there are other teams, competing for these players. But I have a list of free agents that I want to bring in. And obviously, we have a lot of prospects that are trying to make it in. And so the roster next year will look different. Is what I had taken away from the comments that he made, and that's an obvious no dust statement. Of course, the roster will look different, but it has an air to it. Like the fact that he says, and he didn't even say what kind of free agents he had, but the fact that he's like, I have a plan. I have a list of players XYZ that I'm going to try and attract to Detroit. Furthers my belief that, okay, yeah, this is going to be another one of those step forward off seasons for the team. Obviously, with getting a new coach, that's going to be a huge culture shift for the team. Hopefully get a coach that can get more out of the players. But hopefully this offseason with guys like, I don't know, Johnny Gaudreau in free agency, possibly, because they're in the playoffs and he's a 100-point player and they have not signed him to an extension yet. That is not a player you want to have to hit free agency. And obviously there's going to be time where they're going to be able to hit, before free agency to figure that out. But, man, do I ever want me a Johnny Gaudreau on this hockey team?
Yeah, no kidding. Same.
So, yeah. Man, is he looking at it right now? Yeah, he's a UFA as of 2022, 2023. So let's go, man. This is last year, 2021, 2022 season. He's making $6.75 million. They're going to try everything in their power to keep him on board, but that's getting on a whole different topic. We'll save that for our free agent.
I'm sure we'll have plenty of off-season moves, free agency, trade, all kind of shows and stuff.
And you know what? That could be a huge jumping the gun in a rebuild type signing, but it also could be like a spark in the engine type signing too. But I just look at all the potential this team has in the offseason with the cap space they got and new head coach on the way and the things that Yzerman says without saying them, and I get excited, man. I really do.
Me too.
As you guys should be getting excited for the NHL playoffs and by using betonline.net to bet on them. Betonline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season.
And the banner.
BetOnline is your continued source. Don't have one for your.
No, we did. That's my fault.
For the basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season, BetOnline is your continued source. Now I think I'm repeating myself. Wagering information from live betting, the playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Just cleaning up some of the news from the press conference that Steve Yzerman held to end the year on. And he just talked a little bit more about other prospects as he was asked about him. He said he confirmed that they are trying to sign Soderblom to an entry-level contract. Talked about how he was really impressed starting with last season of the development he's taken. And him and like Albert Johansson are guys that they're going to want to bring over to North America next season.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Right. And here's the thing.
What you want to hear.
Right. And there is it's so nice to see the line moving, like to see all of the kids from the SHL then come over to the A. The dudes from the A are now being talked about as coming up, and playing in the NHL next year. Like the keeping the line moving, and then we're gonna have a draft and we're gonna reinstate a bunch of guys overseas. You know what I mean? Like it's just seeing the line move like that is honestly something I will never take for granted.
Absolutely.
Like ever again, because it's something that in the glory days of the team, we were making the postseason every year, we didn't really have that much excitement moving through the system like that. And I know that it's come at the expense of success at the NHL level recently, but at some point it's not. Like Steve Yzerman's that dude. Like at some point, we're gonna have a successful NHL team, and that talent is still gonna be moving like that from level to level. And for an organization that didn't have that for so long, and honestly, for a city like the Tigers never did it either. Nebraska traded every prospect away for a decade and a half. Like it's so nice to see the train moving in the right direction and in a bright direction. It's really fun to
It's not
see.
even just like the fact that it's moving in the right direction, but it feels like it's speeding up as well.
Yeah. Well, speeding up in the sense of like getting closer to the
Yeah.
NHL, absolutely.
I mean, it's been a rough couple years. Everyone knows that. But, the moves made this offseason, even the ones that didn't particularly pan out, like the Nick Leddy trade. I mean, you make that kind of trade because you're trying to get something of value out of a good player. And in the end, you got that value back and then two NHL caliber players. So every move that he has made, whether it be just a Band-Aid player, or a player that's an investment or a project, it feels like it's a step in the right direction. And that's what's so great about rebuilds. Feels like a oxymoron to say,
No,
but
for
it's
sure, though.
such a freeing time in that you're not necessarily constrained. I mean, you're not necessarily constrained when you have a good general manager like Steve Yzerman by like a certain, this player has to do this. You can try a bunch of different things out just as Steve Yzerman has and see what works. Brendan Perlini didn't work out. Eric Comrie didn't work out. But, who did work out? Robbie Fabry has worked out. Sam Gagner has worked out phenomenally. I mean, if he sticks around, that guy is, I mean, I love me some Sam Gagner. Mark Stahl has worked out phenomenally for this team's development. He's not, he's not a foundational piece. He's not a guy who's going to be sticking around for a few years like Robbie Fabry will be. But you get these guys who have been working out and they help push this organization in the right direction. Dylan Larkin got named captain. Tyler Bertuzzi broke the 30-goal mark. You have a rookie that's going to win Rookie of the Year in Moritz Seider, who has 50 points in his rookie season. He's a top 20 scorer among all defensemen in the NHL this season. Top 20 in his rookie season. That was Steve Yzerman. Lucas Raymond, that was Steve Yzerman. The pieces are finally beginning to fall into place, and I think this offseason is going to be huge with another guaranteed top 10 pick, and that's something we haven't touched upon. The Red Wings finished bottom 8 in the league, the 8th worst team in the league. If you finish 8 or worse in the league, you are guaranteed a top 10 pick. So the fact that you also have another top 10 pick on the way and that a new coach is going to come in and you have a crap ton of cap space with the foundational pieces you already have on the NHL roster with at least one more blue chip prospect, and Simon Edvinsson just signed to an entry-level contract. I mean, this team, in no short of words, is kind of set up pretty here.
Yeah, it is extremely, and I think that's something that if it's not well known around the league should be. I think most people are starting to take notice that the Red Wings are on the up and up, and I'm really really excited for next year, man. I'm really
Absolutely.
excited for next year.
And we owe it all to Steve Yzerman and what
The
he
Yzer
has done
plan.
as general manager. And we're not there yet. Things could still turn south at any moment as he mentions it. Like, you can never find out about a player's trajectory, like it could just turn south at any given moment. But it's just everything so far feels like a step in the right direction. And I'm getting a little bit off topic here. I've just begun to gush about Steve Yzerman as general manager. But I mean, I guess it was a good opportunity to do so after he just had this press conference. The one last thing about this press conference I want to talk about is he talked a little bit about Sebastian Cossa and just goaltending in general. He said Sebastian Cossa is having a phenomenal year over at Edmonton Oil Kings, something that we've talked about. He's been watching very closely his playoffs. And selfishly, he admitted, wants them to go very far just for the experience. He says that Cossa, being a goaltender, is still years away from the NHL level, not next year, and still a ways off. But he also said he was very impressed by Alex Nedeljkovic's mental fortitude this season. He said it was a season full of ups and downs for him. It was a little bit of goaltending, but also a little bit of the personnel in front of him. He said he was really impressed by the fact that he could go through a rut like he did and then come back out and put on some spectacular performances. He says that was the thing that impressed him the most. in a hot and cold season, or not hot and cold, but like an up and down season for himself after the phenomenal season he had this year. The fact that he can still come out having the confidence that he does.
Which is awesome. And, the Cossa thing, I think we all knew that. I don't think that's really a surprise to anybody. But hearing that about Ned is awesome, because I think it was an interesting year for him. At the beginning of the year, I think we were all on board that he was going to be part of the Red Wings' future between the pipes. And then there was a little bit there in the middle of the season, December, January, February-ish, where that kind of went away. And people were like, we even talked about on the show. We were like, I don't know. Like, is it a discussion now to talk about, like, is Ned really a long-term option at, like, in between in that? And then the rest of the year, it's actually pretty remarkable, because even with the remainder of the year and how poorly the defense was at times, at times, a
The
lot of
whole
the
season.
times,
Yeah.
it was remarkable that the fan base went back and swung back into, okay, like, this dude is part of the future in net. And if we can just give him a competent defense, like, the rest of the league's going to learn.
Yeah. And that's just everything that was said in today's press conference is just, again, we go back to the fact that he really didn't say anything at all, but there's just a general, and maybe this is just me interpreting it a specific way, maybe interpreting it in a way to fit the way I believe, fit my own personal narrative and my own personal biases.
All about the narrative, baby.
But I listened to that press conference and I come out feeling more confident about the direction of this team than I did beforehand. I mean, he also mentioned, like, he's not going to trade away any of the prospects unless he's getting a young talent that is going to replace that prospect you're trading away to fit the core now. He's not going to trade it away for a veteran, he said. He's going to trade it away for a guy who's in his mid to late 20s that's established, if they're going to trade away anyone, which he says he's not looking to do. So it's just like, he said all the right things without saying anything at all. I don't know. I know I've said that 1,000 times, but it's just like, he's just so damn good at it. And I don't want to sound like I'm just fanboying, but it's hard not to. When you look at the things that he's done in Tampa and you look at the things that he's building here in Detroit, you just have this faith in this general manager that I don't know if anyone else has ever had in a general manager in any sport before. I can't think of anyone that's had that kind of just blind faith in their general manager that the Red Wings fans do. And hopefully we don't get burned. But right now it doesn't look like we're going to be.
I sure as heck don't think we're going to be.
No. Anyway, I said my piece. We again didn't get to the final game recap, but hey,
I'm telling you, we got to do it the night
first.
before opening night this fall.
I mean, guys, the thing about the final game, we will talk about it when we get the opportunity, but it's more about the moments in that game we want to talk about and the achievements earned by certain players in the game itself, because it was the final game of the season in which the team was eliminated from the playoff a month ago. So we'll get to it when there's less pressing matters, but I think Jeff Blashill and Steve Yzerman kind of come first in this regard.
Steve Yzerman
comes first.
He comes first.
He comes first. Oh boy. We didn't end that recording, so that's just the cold open at this point. We're rolling with it.
Should be.
And it is. So it be. So it be. Any final thoughts, man?
I don't think so. We ball,
Trust
man.
the eyes are playing.
We ball.
Thanks for making Locked On Red Wings your first listen every day.
BetOnline.
Now make your second listen. I honestly forgot about it this time. That time it honestly caught me off guard. Now make your second listen Locked On NHL, from first round matchups to each Stanley Cup kiss. Locked On NHL covers the playoffs like no other. Hear the latest news and opinions from local experts every Monday through Friday. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow as we just continue to begin our off season and recapping the season. I think is where we're at so far. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.
You're ridiculous.